to our fourth topic, and let's talk about Kevin Feige and this whole Blade story. Because word on the curb is that he's saying that Blade reboot is going to be R-rated, which I guess is music to my ear because I know that was one of the big complaints. Everybody was like, "Is Blade going to be R-rated? Oh, it should be R-rated because like the original movie, it was R-rated." And I was like thinking, does Blade really need to be R-rated? Because even if you make it, you give it an R rating or whatever, does that necessarily mean that okay, just because the R rating doesn't necessarily mean the movie's going to be good? Like I just saw the trailer for Rebel Moon today. They got another version of it coming out. This one with sex and gore and blood and all this other stuff thrown in. I'm like, okay, so what was the point of this? And then people were saying, well, they had a deal with Netflix that if they give them what they want or whatever, then he could do the vision of what he wanted to do with his other film. And I'm like, oh, so I got to sit through this movie a second time just to see if it improves on the previous film? Like, I don't know if I want to sit through Rebel Moon again, even though I was irritated with the first two parts. I was like, this shit is stupid. I don't know if I want to sit through that again. But y'all let me know how it is. If I read the comments saying that this elevates this movie to a better situation, then I'll give it a gander. But for the most part, I feel like I had my time with Rebel Moon. I'm not that interested in jumping back into that. But it's the same thing I feel about Blade. It's like, okay, so yeah, y'all gonna make it rated R, but does that guarantee that's not necessarily gonna guarantee that, okay, because you make it R rated like the other films with Wesley Snipes, that it's going to be a great movie. Even I've been hearing great things about Deadpool and Wolverine being good, even though that's rated R. So Marvel Studios is taking its time with the Blade reboot, as y'all been noticing, emphasizing quality over speed, according to President Kevin Feige. In a recent interview with Black Tree TV, Feige addressed the long-anticipated film, which stars two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali. The project, first announced in July 2019, has seen a revolving door of writers and directors. Now, I want to give a shout-out to Variety, who's reporting this story, by the way. Feige said not rushing the film has been the utmost importance for the studio. Now, he was asked about Blade in relation to Deadpool and Wolverine, what is the first R-rated entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or as we like to call it, the MCU for short. The Marvel boss said the only way of bringing Deadpool into the MCU was to keep the film R-rated, as that's the essence of his character. The same goes for Blade. This is what Feige teased. He said, I think that's right. I mean, for the last 2 years, we've been trying to crack that movie. The most important thing for us is not rushing it and making sure we are making the right Blade movie. Feige continued by saying the following. He said, because there were some great Blade movies years ago, they were all rated R. So I think that's like Deadpool inherent with the character of Blade. Now, as y'all may or may not know, Blade first came to life on the big screen with Wesley Snipes in the role, starting in the 1998 movie of the same name and continuing with 2002's Blade 2, directed by Guillermo del Toro, and 2004's Blade Trinity. Marvel announced its own Blade movie with Ali in July of 2019. Bassam Tariq was the first director, but then he exited in September of 2022, roughly 2 months before the film was set to begin filming. Now, several screenwriters have also been announced throughout the years, from Watchmen scribe Stacey Osei Kufer, and then we had Bo DeMeo attached at one point, and then Michael Starbury. Now, Variety has reported last November that Blade had gone through at least 5 writers by that time. One person familiar with the script change said the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Speculation at the time said that Marvel was still looking to make the film, but on a budget of less than $100 million. And here's the thing, y'all can actually make that movie for cheap. If y'all stick to practical effects, you give us The Raid meets John Wick style martial arts and stuff thrown in there, some sword fights, some gunplay, and all the other stuff. I really feel like y'all can make this work. But at this point, I'm like, y'all talking about, oh, we're not trying to rush the movie and blah 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 and so on and so forth. I'm sitting there like, are y'all sure? Because yeah, you may not feel the need to rush the film, but Mahershala ain't getting no younger. He's already in his 50s, even though yes, black don't crack. Obviously, looking at him, he does look good at his age. Like I said, black don't crack. However, when it comes to like the more gritty style of martial arts, whatever it is that y'all trying to bring to this table, I guess they could put in, stand-ins or a stunt person, whatever, to do all the crazy stuff, and then you just have Mahershala up in there doing like the close-ups, and he can get a lot of that in. I'm not expecting him to do as much of like what Wesley Snipes and stuff was doing, because trust and believe, Wesley Snipes also had a stunt double when he was doing, the Blade films. He wasn't doing everything by himself, but yes, as someone who has a black belt in martial arts and stuff, Wesley was doing as much as he was possibly allowed to do. So if they can keep it and give it like that essence of like the original Blade, the Stephen Norrington one, the original one, where it's like y'all keep it grounded, you keep it gritty, and you keep it set in like, I don't know where they'll film it. Who knows? Maybe they'll do it their usual style on the ground. They film everything of the MC mostly in Georgia, right? So I would think like they would film it out there. And if y'all just keep that essence of that vibe, then I'm here for it. But at this point, it's like, okay, I need y'all, since y'all already have a date set, and this is what I get irritated with, not just the MCU, but other movies as well, that y'all will sit and set a release date, and y'all don't even have the shit, the script or whatever situated. Because the latest release date for this movie is November 7th, 2025. So there comes a point where y'all need to start getting to work on this. And I understand you don't want to rush, and you don't want to do all this other stuff, but at some point, y'all got to really come to the forefront and figure out what it is exactly that y'all planning on doing with this franchise and get it ready. So at one point, I was complaining, was like, we complain when Marvel rushes scripts and rushes things because y'all want to get things done before a specific deadline, and we have been critical of them for that. So I do applaud them for wanting to take their time with Blade, because I feel like there's a lot writing on this franchise. I feel like more people are overly critical over Blade than any other superhero film, in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just feel like, for me, in my gut, I feel like people have been overly more critical of Blade than they have been any other IP. And I think we want so much for it because we love the first two Blade movies, and we love Wesley Snipes in that role. So if you're bringing somebody in as like, even though Mahershala is an excellent actor, two-time Oscar winner, he has a lot to prove in this part, and B, we care so much about this franchise, we want them to do a really good job, and we already know like the MCU is already on eggshells because they've given us a sort of a flimsy phase 4. But so far, it's like, I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be the overall thing that that solidifies and takes us into, I guess, the direction that we need to go in regards of the future of the MCU. So I'm hoping they do a good enough job. I'm really rooting for this franchise, and I hope they get it together. So shout out to you, Mahershala, and shout out to y'all over at the MCU. And I really hope that, now that Bob Chapek is out of the picture and Kevin Feige's back to taking over duties and being able to do what he needs to do, because he wasn't able to do it when Bob Chapek was there. Now that Bob Iger is back, they can work on getting the MCU back to where it was post Avengers Endgame and get everything back on track. So I'm excited to see this film. I really hope they get it together, and y'all need to get to getting, because the movie's supposed to come out in November of next year. So regardless of, all of this, what do you guys think of this Blade T? Are y'all excited to hear that the movie is going to be R-rated, as Kevin Feige has reiterated, and similar to, Deadpool and Wolverine? And do you think that we're finally going to get a really good Blade movie post Blade 2? Because that was the last one. Blade Trinity Child, I can't stand that damn movie, even though Ryan Reynolds was in it and Jessica Biel, and there was parts of that movie that was cute or whatever. For the most part, that movie was a disaster. And we already know all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes from what we've heard from Patton Oswalt and so many other people, and the stories that came out that happened where, Wesley Snipes and what's his name, David S. Goyer was going at it and stuff, all the shenanigans and things. I really am rooting for this franchise. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.